Just by a show of hands, if everybody could click on hand, the raise hand icon, so I can tell that you're hearing me. Okay, I could see all you. Very good. All right. Well, it's good to have you all, and we're going to get started. In the realms of embroidery, there are only 3 different stitch types that make up all types of stitches. Okay. There are path stitches, okay? Now, path stitches are usually running stitches that allow you to go from one area of a design to another. Run stitches are designed to travel from one section of the embroidery with run stitches that will be behind the decorative stitches to the other side of the embroidery field to create stitches from that. With the goal in mind is reducing the amount of thread trims that you have to have in embroidery design. The more thread trims you have, the longer it does take to sew out that design, okay? Because the machine's got to stop, trim the thread, the wiper picks up the cut thread, throat plate is cleared by the frame moving left and right real quick, moves to the next area, and then starts to sew in what's called inching mode. That's to slow speed, and then it incrementally picks up the speed to normal speed. All that adds time to your embroidery. So what path or run stitches are called, they help you go from one area of a design, travel with the strategy of keeping these run stitches behind embroidery that'll go on top of that to hide the run stitches, okay? And then start another area, okay? A lot of people use run stitches for outlining letters or doing registration marks that are very small. Those kind of things, you can use those as well. Okay? The next type of stitch that we have are called zigzag stitches, and you have a couple of them here in path. You got a path with zigzag, which basically allows you to draw a satin stitch at different widths. Okay? It's a satin stitch. Okay? A tight zigzag stitch. Okay, and you also have what are called E-stitches. Now these are simulated to represent an appearance of applique. Okay, my brother calls this a zipper stitch because that's what it looks like, a zipper. All right. All right. The other satin stitches that you have here in the path are the programmable stitches. This will actually put a decorative stitch that will behave like, as an outline stitch. Think of these stitches as an outline border stitch, okay? Anything that's path will be used as bordering. Now, in the programmable stitches, you have many different styles to choose from, okay? And you want to work with these styles and get a sense of how they work. Some of these work as fill stitches, like these stars, or the brickwork stuff here, or the houndstooth. Like something like this here will put a different decorative pattern to your path stitches. So when I do this, and it's just going to give me a line, and you can see what that's doing. Okay, it's giving you a zigzag pattern stitch. Okay. Changing these out, now, I don't know why this is telling me to upgrade, but I'm going to close that so I have my tools back. There we go. Play with these and get a sense for how they work and change them up. You'll find different uses for each one of these styles, okay? For this one here, it's like a plaid look. You know, this one here is like a plaid, you know, cross-stitch patterns. You have houndstooth, multiple colors. These are actually pretty cool to use on fill. It allows you to go in and change the different colors. Now that looks pretty interesting in its own right, just like that. And in the Object Manager, you have full ability to change the colors that it's using. Okay, let me just move my GoToWebinar out of the way. And down here, there's your 2 colors that make up this fill. So you could change them up to school colors. Okay, there's a green. The yellow, and it actually looks pretty good. It's a different way of actually doing a zigzag stitch. It almost looks like a distress look on this too. So, you know, play with these because it'll give you an idea of when you want to use them. Half the learning battle of actually other software, people don't even use these because they have no idea how they work or what they look like, so they just leave them alone. And years down the road, they see a tech talk or one of us technicians doing a seminar, and they'll see them. Never knew they had them. Okay, learn what these programmable stitches do, how they can enhance your embroidery, especially in the realm of fill stitches. Okay, they actually give a little bit better dimension to your embroidery than what's the norm. Okay. Now these other path stitches won't come with your software. This is actually, these are add-ons where we could do sequin paths, which is, everybody's seen those PVC type sequins that have the hole in the middle that are stitched onto a garment. If you have a sequin attachment to your embroidery machine, you would actually create the sequin path using this, okay, and decorate dresses or whatever. And then you have multicolor sequins as well as chenille. Chenille seems to be a dying art. Used to be very big in the 90s, but now with collegiate sports, but now it's kind of going by the wayside. You pretty much see them in bands and orchestras and stuff like that. But it's still in New York City, you'll have a lot of people that are still doing chenille. That's the run stitches, okay? Now the column stitches are basically columns, okay? The same thing, but these are all zigzag stitches, okay? And the first column is zigzag, and what it wants to do, it wants to actually create a zigzag pattern, and you're basically creating the path. You click 2 points, right and left. When you hit enter, you create your zigzag stitches, okay? This is old school digitizing method where I would actually have a graphic. I'm going to open up a graphic real quick. I'll just do this part. And if I wanted to create my stitches here on the border, normally I would use a digitizing pen and a stylus, and I would use column zigzag. And basically what I would do is I would just create this. I would actually start with a corner node. And I would just do this. Now my mouse is not cooperating with me, but I think I can get the idea. And I would create my own stitches, okay? This is kind of old school. A lot of people still use that. Matter of fact, a good book, some of the best digitizing that you'll ever see out there, which needs minimum amount of backing, which sews great, never puckers, is actually created by people that do old school techniques, okay? Create their own stitches instead of automated fills and automated application of stitches, okay? If you want to tend to doing professional embroidery like those that Dakota Collectibles provides, or Floriani, or any of these other master digitizers, definitely get a book by Strawberry Stitch called Embroidery Digitizing 101. Okay, it actually puts all those techniques in an easy to understand format that anybody can understand. Okay. Then you have the same thing in these stitches. These are all manually created stitches. I do have to click on both areas to create these stitches, okay? And there you have it, okay? Or it's all just basically automatically creating stitches that are border-esque, okay? They're not fill stitches, okay? And you have them all right there. Column fur fill. I'm not sure what this is. I got to play with this a little bit and fill pattern. You don't have these in your normal library because they're add-on functions to the software. But I got to find out what the benefits of them are and try to work with them and see what kind of looks I can get from them. So there's the first two, path stitches and column stitches. Both are basically outline border style stitches. The difference between the two, path tools are automated, okay? To do the same zigzag path that I was doing in the column area, okay, is I just do this. With this, I choose my width. And basically, we just mosey along. We just go right through the middle here, keeping our center guide line right in the middle. Come down here. We'll put a corner in there, jet back off the corner. And there you have it, okay? They're all border style stitches, okay? The next one we want to talk about, the third one, is actually uniform area. Now these are fill stitches. Just like in the middle of this heart is a flattened area of color. We'd want to use a fill stitch in here and not a satin stitch. If we do a satin stitch, it's not going to look right. Okay, we want to fill that in just like you're doing, just like if you had a coloring book, okay? You would want to color this in and then use hand control to go around the border with a straight line, okay? So if you think about it in that regard, you'll be able to understand what part of your image should be fill and what part should be borders, okay? Now, one little rule of thumb is always do your fill stitches first. This heart has a fill color and a border color. Always do the fill. We want the border to be on top of that fill, okay? All right, so in uniform area, these are all your pattern stitches, and we have several of them. Area with pattern, we have programmable stitch patterns. We have area with applique, which is a totally different dog. You'll see how we use that. You have cross stitching, and you have this radial fill. The rest that you see here do not come with your software, but they're special add-ons. We have it on ours because we train on certain people, certain clients out there that will have these, and we need to know how to use them, okay, to train on. But you'll have the area pattern, the programmable, the applique, cross stitch, and radial. Now, area with pattern is basically a fill stitch. It just floods the area with stitches. And the way it works is you just start from one end and you trace your shape. Keeping your nodes spaced apart enough to where you can capture all the curves correctly. And now my curves are not being, it's almost correct. On the left side, it's a little off. And then we finish up here. We hit enter, and it fills it in with stitches, okay? And what we have with your software are different styles of fill pattern, okay? Let's go ahead and extend this out so people can see, okay? There they are. Now this is basically a default fill stitches, okay? You can see that the stitches, let me turn off a 3D mode, are just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, filling in this entire area with stitches. A lot of people don't realize is that you have several different styles of fill stitches, okay? When we click on the fill stitch style here, which is called default, okay, it opens up a view of all the different fill patterns you have, okay? So we have default, which we're using. We have PTM 001, which is similar to this, only has shorter stitches. Then we have bigger breaks for valleys, and we have bigger breaks. And you have different types of angles being applied all the way through to a needle out look here. Then we go into like a more distressed look here, or wheat look, I call it. Pattern, like if you choose one of these, it'll put that decorative stitch in there, okay? You can see there's different types of stitches there. Now, you have 4 different categories. You have math patterns. You have creative patterns. Now, these will have a different decorative motif that's embellished within your stitches, okay? It's pretty cool. You have manual patterns. These are more of a pattern texture look, okay, where you have almost like a needle out shirt would have a texture to the weave of the cotton. These will do the same thing on your stitches. Pretty cool. Then you have combined patterns where it takes a combination of creative and math and fills it in, okay? You can see we have some decorative motifs on top of the stitches, like this number 8 here. So if I click on this, you can see what we have, okay? We're actually putting different decorative motifs in there, okay? Now this here is a stitch direction line, okay? Every time you do a fill stitch, let me change the fill stitch back to a default. Okay, every time you do a stitch, okay, the stitch is going to run this way. Whenever you do a fill stitch, you always want to give some angle to the stitches. And the reason why is because the way your machine is going to sew it's going to sew a fill stitch. Let me just simulate. Let's keep it straight across here. Hold on. Deselect. The way it's going to do it is actually it's going to start from the bottom, from the top. It's coming down, and then it's coming up, okay? The problem is the material that's here, because of the way the needle's sewing, it's pushing the fabric southward when it does the top part. And then when it starts to push the fabric northward, you're going to have fabric that's going to peek out right where these two parts meet, kind of looking like that when it's done. And it really looks horrible, okay? So what you want to do is whenever you're using a fill stitch, always add a little bit of direction to your fill stitches, okay? I'll just put like a 40-degree angle to my pattern stitches here, and let's take a look at it now. Okay, we're going more across the grain of the shirt. Now you also have the ability to change your start and end points, okay? If you go where it starts and where it ends. So if I go to, let's see, where the green is, that little green line dot right there is where it's going to start, and there is a red line on here somewhere. Let me change my stitches to blue, and there's the, that's a corner note. Where's the red? Oh, the red is at the same spot. So if I hold my Alt button, okay, I can grab that start point and bring it down to here. It's going to start at the point, and I'm going to grab my stop point, and I'm going to end it here. And this should actually stitch from bottom to top. Just like that. So your material is pushing one way. Nothing's worse than having material sticking out of the top, okay? So once again, just so I know you got that, okay? If you double click on your art, look for the green points right here. Your green point is your start, and the red point is your stop, and then change the position. To change it, you hold the Alt button, grab it, and here it'll start and end here, which means it's going to start here, it's going to go up a little bit, then it's going to come to the top and come back down to end right where I have it. So we'll see how that looks. See how it did it? It started off at the bottom and it started working its way down. Your goal is to start at one section and end at the opposite area, at the opposite end. So let's see what happens when we put it right into the point here. I'm going to bring it right up top. If we bring it down to the point, it's still going to do some of this. Let's see how that's going to start. See how it's pushing down right here? And then it pushes up. But if we take and change that end point and put it above it, above the curve height, let's see what we got now. A little better, but I would rather just end right there. Takes a little bit to configure it all, and then it'll release. And that's the way you want to do your pattern fills, okay? All right. Make sure we got it. Okay. All right, so let's move on. The next pattern fill we're going to look at is going to be Programmable Stitch, okay? This is another filled stitch style, and you get to choose which one you want, okay? And we'll try this one first. This is the default. We'll actually do this one here. And now the way that these work, okay, number one, they always work best with a border color, okay, because the ends are going to be a little bit distorted a little bit, okay? Changing your start and end points does help. Okay, so if I start and end right here, it will configure the stitches a little differently. But what you want to do is you definitely want to add a border to this. It'll definitely clean it up for you. Now, you can see the holes are pretty large here. These numbers right here, lowering these numbers decrease the size of those shapes that are embedded into the pattern in Programmable Stitch. Let me see. Okay, just didn't have enough room there. And then, of course, increasing the number makes them larger. Okay, you'll have these controls. You can make them oblong, just like that. So you can change these up any way you want. Okay. Then you have, that's a single color fill. And then you have these, which are pretty cool. Now, the nice thing about these is that there's not many stitches in this, okay, versus a full fill. I mean, it has openings, okay, especially if I go 50 and I go 50 on here, you know, that looks pretty filled, okay. It's a souped up cross stitch pattern pretty much, okay. It's got 4 stitches per line. So, I mean, so that's a pretty cool one. You want to go through these one at a time and see which one do what, like this one here. Is a 2-color pattern fill. The 2 colors, like I said, will always be in the object manager. There they are right there. First color is blue. We'll change that to like a red. And second color we can do gray. And we get different looks, just like that. Okay. These actually look pretty nice on different types of materials, like if you're doing something like on a plaid colored shirt, you know, those kind of things, it always enhances the look of it. They have checkerboard. These are eyes, called the eyes of Isis. Let me see, what else we got? We got the wrought iron gate look. Just different ones here. The houndstooth looks pretty cool. We did that earlier. These are, you got 2 different styles, smaller and large. Okay. Definitely gives you a little bit more dimension to your embroidery. Okay. Looks pretty good. Like I said, all these work best with a border. So you definitely want to plan to add a border to your pattern fills. Pick up on a color that's in there. Go to a 12. Okay. That's your programmable stitch. Applique. Now the way applique is made, okay, it automatically defaults to a piece of material in here so you can see it. And let me show you how to put together applique real quick, okay? Let's turn on our graphic. I want this heart to be applique, okay? Basically, a piece of material with a border, with a tack down stitch, okay? The first thing I'm going to do is actually clean up my image by reducing the colors of the image to 3, the white background and the pink and the red. Okay? And now what we can do is we are going to click on this, and we are going to convert using, not Smart Design, we are going to use embroidery. We're going to choose uniform area, and we'll use applique. Okay? Well, and basically what we're going to do is we're just going to click on the auto, complete, click on the heart, and hit enter. Okay? And there's our applique. Okay? We have 2 parts of the applique on this. Okay? Number 1, we have the run stitch. Excuse me. We have the run stitch that's going to allow us to see where our material goes on our shirt. Machine stops, we put our material on there, and then it sews this tack down stitch. Okay, and then the last part is we actually add our border color. Okay, so if I just go ahead and click on turning area, choose area with zigzag, and we're going to keep it with blue, auto complete. And there we go. Now the thing about applique is you definitely want to make sure your tack down stitches do not overhang the satin stitch, okay? Especially this satin stitch is pretty wide right here, And I probably wouldn't want it that wide. Let's stick with a blue. And let's go to, we go to a smaller pull compensation. There we go. Now to control that, what you have to click on the applique, and you'll have to change these numbers here, okay? Now this one here, hold on. This one here is placement of stitches, okay? And if we increase this number, you can see it's putting that first outline stitch more towards the center of those applique. I like a 75% offset, I'm sorry, 33% offset, where I'm actually putting it more towards the north end of the center point. This one here is running tack down, okay? And this one here is the density. Let me see. I want an offset. Let me grab the offset real quick. The offset right here is where, see how we're coming in on it a little bit? I definitely want it at 0. And I definitely want the satin stitch to cover. And the only way I could do that is if I move that in there. Actually, the way I would create this is very simple. More tried and true method is actually click on path stitch, click on your running stitch, and I'll create my own my own run stitch. Okay, so I'll click on the red, but instead of then I'm going to go auto center path. There's my run stitch. Okay. Now I'm going to go to not a zigzag. I want to go to, let me go to select object, go to embroidery. I'm going to go to turning area. Choose a different color because I need a color change to stop the machine. Click on the red, enter. This one here is going to have a lower density. I'm going to have a 1.35 density. Matter of fact, I'll probably even go a little bit lower, 1.15. This will become my tack down stitch, okay? I'll turn off the embroidery, click on running stitches again, choose a third color, click on it, and there's my satin stitch. So let's take a look at this, see what we did. You select object, turn on the embroidery, turn off the graphic, and when we sew this out, it's going to sew the outline. Hold on. I'm zoomed out, that's why I couldn't see it. Okay, so what it's going to do, it's going to sew the outline first. And because I have a 3-color design here, I would program the same stitch to sew out each part of this. Like I would do a blue, and then I do another blue, and then I do another blue on my color changes. Set the machine to applique mode, and then the machine will stop when it's using the same needle back to back on a color change. This will allow me to put my material down, line up my material on my garment, and then we'll sew again, and it's going to sew the tack down stitch. This is going to keep the our material to the back of the shirt. A lot of people will use applique in a way they'll actually go to Joann's Fabrics or Michael's, and they'll get their own pattern material, and they'll cut a square. Well, what you want to do, in order to make the square work, you have to cut the excess material real close to these satin stitches, okay? And when you're doing that, you definitely don't want these tack down stitches to be too wide, okay? You want the material to be underneath this final satin stitch that we have on top. So what you got to do is you got to decrease the width of these column stitches, okay? And you do that by adding no pull compensation, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an offset. Down in your list, in your object manager, let's find my offset here. Where I just seen it. Let's open this up a little bit bigger. It's the density. Let me see. Oh no, why don't I have an offset there? Hold on, people. I should. Let me see. I don't have an offset. I gotta find out why. All right, so let's go back to this, and we're going to set the density to 1.0. Turn off our pull compensation. And turn it off. That's going to bring that in, but my offset is not there. Okay, so, wow, okay. Well, that drives me crazy. Let me see. It's not there either. Size and order. It's the body. Does it come? It's a Z stitch. Puts an angle to it. Overlap. Nope. Well, I'm pretty shocked. I don't have an offset. Used to have one. Don't have it now. Okay, so this might not even work. All right. So, and then what I would need to do is this third part right here. I need to make this a lot wider. And to do that, you just want to increase your pull compensation. I usually do it on the object inspector. Oh. And the pull compensation is going to be right here. And we'll just increase this to 25. There we go. And that should cover it. So if I turn off the 3D, I should see I have enough material, enough stitches going beyond the peaks of that tack down stitch. Okay. Now some people actually use what's called a knee stitch style for their tack down stitch because it does put less stitches down. You could do that here. If you want to, just change it here. All right, so we take a look at that. Let's go to our object manager, and we will increase the density a little bit more. You get a couple more holds there. And these are the direction of the E-stitch. Okay. Let me go to a. Let's move this guy off. It's not really helping me too much. That's my outline. This is my E-stitch. It's not really changing on me. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to convert that to a path with an E-stitch. There we go. And with this, you have 2 E-stitches here. So I'm going to choose them both. And I'm just going to choose one. Let me see. All right, the path width, I'm going to decrease that. And I just want one. There we go. And then our path offset, this is the offset, which will actually shrink this in. I'm going to move it higher in number. Okay. And the density is right here, so I'm going to decrease density. This is enough to hold the material. That's enough. That's too low. Probably right about there. And then we'll set this on top. And the E-stitch may not work on here because some of these points are actually still jetting out. Like that one there. This on the end. So what I would probably just stick to the I'll just convert these back over to a satin stitch. Not a vector. No, hold on. Got to go back in here. Change it over to a zigzag. And of course that zigzag, low density. There's my offset. Okay, so let me show you how this works. Okay, so all right, so let me grab this guy. Center him up as best as possible. Now we'll click on our zigzag stitch, and for our path stitches, and our density is going to be 1.30 or 1.15, and then the offset. This is what I wanted. Okay, I want this offset to be further in towards the inside part of this heart. I'm not sure if you could see what I'm doing there. Let me turn off the 3D. Okay, every time I click on this and I change that offset, right now we're at 96%, it changes its position further out, brings it out to the edge. So I'm just moving it inwards. There we go. And that allows me to cut my material after it's been tacked down. Okay. Not sure why it wasn't there before, but it's there now. That's the way I usually use the applique function when creating applique. Any questions so far? I got a question here. Where was the border button? Border, not border. Yeah, it's border. Yeah, let me show you. Okay, it's called border. B-O-R-D-E-R. When we have two parts of this design, we have the fill and the border. Okay, in converting your stitches, you choose the stitch type you want, turning area. All right, and you have autocomplete here, which allows me to click on that border, hit enter, boom, stitches. Okay. Another way you can do it is by we'll do the inside part with a fill stitch. And now that we have stitches in there, we can click on it, and border is right up here at the top, right next to body. And this, you can just turn the border on by adding a border stitch to it, just like that. Change the color right from here. Change the width of it. Change the density. It's attached to the fill stitch. If you want to detach it, you separate the border, and now you can take that border and take it anywhere you want to go. Okay? That's where, all right, good. All right. All right, so let's move on here. The other type of fill pattern we have is cross stitch. Okay, and everybody's familiar with cross stitch patterns. Okay, you have several different of them, several different ones you have. You could decrease the size of the cross stitch by changing these numbers. Okay, it does do it proportionally. It does clip the ends. All right, that's what this is. Clipping is. So it cleans it up for you. I think we can add colors to it as well. No, we can't add colors to it. So it's a solid color. Okay, and you can change the color any way you want. Okay, you could also change the stitch direction. On all fills, you can change the stitch direction anytime you want. Next one is Radial Fill. I've never used this. Not sure when I would use it. You can see what it does. There's a spiral fill and a radial type fill. There are small steps which actually shrink your stitch lengths. This actually adds more rings, how many rings it has. Lowering it, increasing it, spaces them out further apart so you have less rings. This one here is stitch length. Now the stitch length here, we have 25 here. Lowering this number will get more of a contour effect on how it follows the curvature of my heart here. Okay, so if I go to like 2, what it does is shrinks the stitch lengths from one stitch to another so you get better detail. This usually needs to be controlled when your object is small. Okay. For a small object, we're trying to do this radial fill. Sometimes the stitch length could be too big, okay? When I change the stitch length to, let's go to 25, you can see it's not very detailed, okay? And it's not even following our underlay, or our path line here. So, if I go to like 50, you can't really tell what that is. So lowering this number minimizes the amount of space your needle needs to make a penetration in the fabric, and you get a much clearer detail of that heart design. Not sure why I would do that. There's 2 styles there. Okay. I never used this. Never saw a reason to. If I was doing sequin, I would probably do it this way, because what it'll do is the space for each, what I would do is take the measurement of my sequin. If it was 2 millimeter sequin, then it's 1 millimeter to the center. And then it would be 1 millimeter to the outside of that sequin and another millimeter to the center of the second sequin. So I would need a 2 millimeter stitch length, which would be 20. Points conversion would be 20. And what it'll do, see my stitch length jumps from here to here. So that means this is the center of one sequin, stitch is the center of the second sequin, and on. So it's the only reason in my experience of digitizing that I would use a radial fill pattern, because I'm sewing sequin. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? All right, let's move on. Let's turn on our auxiliary. Excuse me. The other fill patterns we have here are, of course, let's see what they do. And this one here, it's sequin. It's simulating sequin, okay? And of course, the population of sequin is actually way too much. And I would need to do like a 5 here, and probably let's go to an 8. No. Sorry, wrong way. Wow. Okay. And if the object was large enough, probably it would lay the sequin correctly. Let's see. And you can see what it's doing there. It's actually laying sequin here. My density needs to be about 40 on these sequins. There we go. So now, So that is pretty wild. Okay, so that's a Sequin Fill. And then you have a spiral with sequin. And of course we go to 50 on here. We go 50 on here. And maybe go 100 here. So what you're doing is laying out your sequin paths. We'll go 25. There we go. And we'll just lower this number back down to about 10. And there we go. So there we have our sequin paths, okay? It just gives you a graphic to see where the sequin will get tacked down at. Chenille. That's how chenille is sewn, okay? It's just sewn in a waffle weave through material and then a chenille loop. So these are all features that don't come with your software, but they're available if you are in that kind of industry. All right. So let's see. Next one we have is turning area. Now, turning area is the same thing as column, except it's more automated. Okay. The path was automated, although it did force you to trace your image. These are your more manual tools, the path and column. The turning area is actually more of an automated feature. Okay. With area with zigzag, gives you a magic wand. You click on what you want to do to change the satin stitches, and there's the satin stitches. Okay, it's kind of like a border. And then you have the same thing with E-stitches. You click on it, and there's your E-stitches. Let's see, flexible area. Now these here don't come with your machine, okay? This flexible area isn't, this whole category here is actually an add-on. Don't even know how to use these. Macros with E-stitches, macros with programmable stitches. So we click on this and see what it does. So just filling it in with a programmable stitch. Let's see what some of these other ones do. These are running stitches. Okay, just a bunch of, and you can add some curve to it. There we go. That's pretty cool. And then we have macro with zigzags, same thing, but with zigzags, okay? And the nice thing about this is if I can do multiple colors like a syrup look to it. This tool here is your, let me deselect, and then put your mouse over it. This is row spacing. So if we increase this to 80, we get several different rows, spaces in between rows. The path width, this is actually how wide the satin stitches are going to be. Okay. And then we have edge, internal connection. Let me go to, we could trim at the end of each one of these, or it's going to connect from one to the other. Okay, and this one here is density. That's okay, that's fine. And offset. Now, if I split this object, or yeah, split the object. Hold on. What I want to do is a syrup look. So if I right click on here, and okay, so there's no way of ungrouping it. No, so what I would have to do is I'd have to convert the object to a vector, get rid of the stitches, turn on my vector. See, it just gives me a fill. Okay, I'll have to work with that a little bit more, find out what all I could do with it, because syrup looks are really in right now. And so we got path zigzag, macro, E-stitches, programmable stitches did that, and these are sequin runs, okay? All right, well that kind of does all. We actually covered a lot of territory. We actually not only did working with fills, but we worked with a bunch of border tools, how to use them, when to use them. Any final questions at all before we break for the day? All right, well, it was good talking to you all. Looks like we, Leah, Michael, and Nancy, it's good seeing you all. And hope I see you next week with the hotfix class, okay? All right, I'll talk to you later. Have a great weekend, everybody.